Welcome to Thunder Nerds. I'm Brian Hinton.
Give me a phone call.
That was great.
That was awesome. I'm Sarah Vessel.
I'm Project Philip Von Weiss. Thank you for consuming the Thunder Nerds, a conversation with the people behind the technology that love what they do.
And do tech good.
Ha! We're doing good today at DevFest, Florida. Where are we at?
Orlando, Florida. Where in Orlando?
DevFest, Florida. Oviedo.
Yeah, okay.
I'm not sure what you're looking for there.
More details, obviously.
Right.
And we're with our first guest, Dylan Israel. Dylan, welcome to the show.
Thank you.
Yeah, tell us a little bit about you, Dylan.
Yeah, so I'm a senior software engineer. I'm a big JavaScript guy. I have a YouTube channel, podcasts, side projects, two-time college dropout. So a little
Nice. All right. Way to go. I like this record. So what's your YouTube? What's your what are these projects?
Yeah, so youtube.com/codingtutorials360. Dylan Israel. I have about 1,000 videos now and live streams.
Wow.
Every Friday, I like to do like a mentoring session where essentially it's just people come in. It's usually somewhere between 50 and 100 people, and we provide direction, because like that was something I remember wanting very drastically when I was a junior or aspiring developer. And then I also have a podcast called Self-Taught or Not, and so that's sort of my two main things. But there's a couple other things.
Self-taught or not. So why did you do something like that?
So, I mean, one thing that, much like learning, is I think different mediums accomplish different things and are presented in different ways. So like when you're trying to get good at software development, you should always learn from multiple sources, not just video, not just books, not just meetups. You want to have all of it, and you're going to take in different pieces. And so when I partnered up with my co-host Eric Hanchett, who's also another YouTuber and two-time Vue.js author, it was he's sort of the, for lack of a better word, the not, because he has like he's the bachelor's and master's type guy, and I'm the two-time college dropout. So I'm more of the self-taught stuff. And so it adds this nice sort of flavor where different perspectives, but we sort of do the same job at the end of the day.
Oh, I love that.
Awesome.
Yeah.
So what is your talk about today?
So my talk today might be a little bit misleading by the topic, because I was a little, as my first sort of conference talk, I went a little broad, but it's clean TypeScript and testing, but minimal time on the testing because I went a little long.
Okay.
But the goal, yeah, there is some testing. I don't want to do the old clickbait, but the goal that I'm trying to do is take a very practical example of how we can not depend on third-party dependencies and utilizing better data models with TypeScript. And then we do a little bit of testing utilizing some of that. And to wrap it up, the last 5 minutes are some VS Code settings to make your TypeScript experience a little bit more automated, a little bit easier, some very practical stuff that, so you don't have to auto-lint, for instance, and it'll just do it for you.
Nice. So like who's the audience for this? What level do you think this is for?
I think anyone that uses TypeScript, period, and sort of intermediate, because we are going into some higher level stuff. TypeScript's interesting because it takes some items that you aren't comfortable in JavaScript. If you've ever worked in JavaScript, the idea of access modifiers or abstract classes or some of these higher level things aren't really something that you've been introduced to unless you've maybe worked in C# or other things. And so we're going to talk about some of those features that, and how to utilize them in a very practical way.
What would you tell people that don't leverage TypeScript, that might go, you know what, I'm thinking about this? What would you tell them? Like, well, here's the advantages. This is why you should do it.
Yeah.
Just do it. Hold them down.
Sort of with like testing in general. It's the same thing as that. There are, if you go and look up like stats on why you should do PRs and why, like the numbers speak to it, is that a lot of times it makes your job as a developer easier. And so one of the things we actually try to tackle in TypeScript in my talk is why we should never use an any, because it defeats the purpose and problems it causes. But if you look at like, there's been a couple studies with doing PRs that 1 hour PR saves like 40 hours of bug finding. And TypeScript, there's other studies that show like, hey, these 12% of all errors in JavaScript are type related. So you sort of have this ability to make your code safer, but more than anything else, I think it adds to readability, which is about 90% of your job as a developer, is making sure that you can understand the guy's code that was here last time.
Right.
Yeah, that's always a problem we have when somebody goes back in and they go, what was this junk? What were they thinking? Oh, yeah.
Yeah. And it's like more type safe, right? Because you actually have the structure.
Yeah, and a lot of, and so some of the critiques of TypeScript is that at the end of the day, it compiles to JavaScript, which of course, right? And that there are no,
What?
yeah,
I can't run them natively.
yeah, exactly. But it stops you in development from making those mistakes that now aren't going to be present in your JavaScript. And so it's sort of a same reason I write tests. Like in theory, we all should write working code that doesn't have any issues, but in practice, things happen and we need to maybe put some checks and balances. And I think it's one of those items to really put that checks and balances, make your job easier at the end of the day.
So a big advantage is keeping us accountable.
Exactly.
Yeah. What's another like one of the big major things?
Well, I think it supports the
So like your whole talk.
yeah, I'll do
5 minutes. Go.
Just one more.
yeah. I think for me, one thing that I'm very big on is clean code and like the solid principles and items like that maybe are a little bit like from a junior developer standpoint might be a little bit higher, more detailed oriented that you're ready for. But as you go and get to that mid or senior level are sort of design patterns and principles that are going to make your code easier to work with. And I think TypeScript lends itself to doing some of that. So one of the things that I'll be talking about in my talk is two of those principles, the open closed and the dependency inversion principle, and how we're able to utilize that with TypeScript and a little bit of Angular, because a good amount of developers that do TypeScript do Angular, and be able to apply that.
Love that. What actually got you into TypeScript? This seems like a passion for you, obviously.
Yeah, so really it was just quitting my first job for a better job. And so like that sort of, you go and you always want to learn some items that are better and going to make you more money. And once I showed up thinking I was going to be doing JavaScript and like an Angular JS app, and they're like, no, you're doing Angular and TypeScript. I was like, cool. And then once I dove into it, I loved it and I've never turned back. And so part of that is just being able to see as I've made these mistakes, and my talk is designed in such a fashion is that we're going to work through an example, and we're not going to just go from 0 to like best example. We're going to go through the full thought process. Okay, this is what I did next. This is what happened here. And as you go and work, I think the longer you work in TypeScript and you've worked with it, you start seeing more benefits. And sort of the same way I feel about testing. People who don't like testing oftentimes haven't been exposed to it.
That's interesting.
And your talk, do you think you'll make it within the time frame? It sounds like you.
Yeah.
Sounds like you're talking about earlier. Like
I made it so I practiced this 3 times at home with my girlfriend, who she's not quite a developer yet, but she's studying.
Did she learn? She learned a
lot. She said she didn't understand most of it, but it is an intermediate talk, so she's not quite there. But I did 35 minutes, 40 minutes, 45 minutes, and I cut out some stuff. So we're going to cover 40 minutes and then take 10 minutes of questions. I think we'll get there, though.
Oh, that's a good formula. I like that.
So one thing that sped that up is I did nothing but slides. Like I didn't want to do some code and type it out. So every
live demo?
Yeah, no.
It's
like, we just do
Nothing will break.
straight in production.
Never does.
Yeah.
So how long did it take you to actually build the talk?
So it's interesting because I knew what I wanted to talk about when I submitted my talk, but I had yet to build the talk.
Yeah.
And which is why I had to cut some stuff out. But I sort of really this last week, I sort of in my mind, I mentally mapped it. I created an outline over like 2 weeks and then started implementing it. And then you start finding a little bit of holes in your logic. You go through your slides like, oh man, this isn't what I meant to show at all. And then you just spice it up with some memes and things like that. And so it took, I'd say, about a week and a half.
Wow.
No, that's not bad at all.
Yeah.
Were you up late at night last night?
Yes,
tweaking.
I was.
This morning?
That's like my biggest fear is like maybe my code example is like, because they're not actual code at this point. They're screenshots of code.
Yeah.
Maybe I made a typo somewhere.
Are you sure your slides are still okay?
I know. I
Did
constantly
you delete them?
No.
What did you write to them? Are you Keynote?
No, I just use Google Slides. So
Google Slides, okay.
I'm all about the free software. So I
What
don't
if you
pay
can't
for
connect to
anything.
them?
What if the service goes down?
We really do appreciate all your work.
Yes.
I'll just whiteboard it out. I'll be like, this is what I was going to talk about.
Yeah.
You know it so well by now that
I
I
just
I
say
feel
it without
like
the slides.
more or less.
Yeah.
So what do you do when you're not coding?
I do related coding projects. So I mean, between
So the road to burnout. Gotcha.
Yeah.
Okay.
So which is an interesting topic because I get that question, and I think that people burn out way too quickly, and I think you need to. It's almost like a rubber band where you need to stretch that burnout level, and so.
Endurance, I like it.
Yeah, and
Build your endurance.
because if you don't, you're not really preparing yourself for corporate America, and they're not going to care, if you burn out. So you need to sort of stretch that endurance. And so nowadays I don't get burned out, but between podcast and YouTube channel, building courses, the book I'm writing, and doing things like this, it's really just I walk my dogs. So like I spend time with my girlfriend, walk my dogs.
What kind of dogs you got?
2 Australian Shepherds. So
Their names?
Gator, because we wanted to name him after something very Floridian, because I'm not native Florida. And then Boise, because eventually we plan to move to Idaho, Boise, Idaho, where my family is.
Oh, nice.
Oh, it's really cool.
You know, if you need a book advice, Sarah is an author.
Oh
She's
my
written a
God,
book.
shut
What's
up.
the book, Frederick?
I don't want to.
So glad they
again.
did. They do this to me every episode.
If I had the book with me,
They
it's
just rain
funnier.
on me, but yes.
Speaking of your book, why don't you tell us a little bit about the book that
If you
you're writing?
can,
Yeah, I mean, I can tell you about it.
The whole thing.
Yeah, start to finish.
check the time.
Oh, plenty.
I like to describe it as basically a 100 blog post, and essentially it's
Oh, that'd be a great title.
yeah, that's a great title. I call it Going Rogue, the Self-Taught Developer's Playbook, and that's the general idea is a bunch of less technical in nature, but sort of things like how to interact with recruiters. I have this other idea of like negative role models. I'm not motivated by people who are doing good in life and like chasing after them. I find it much more motivating to see people who are like people I don't want to be like. And then, because instead of chasing after them, I'm running like hell not to be like them.
Right,
So
right.
I talk about things like that and developers who have shaped me. And but yeah, it's at the end of the day, it's about 100 different topics, and that's the idea. I was hoping to get it out this year, but I didn't quite meet that goal. But I was hoping to get it out last year. I didn't quite meet that goal, but this is the year.
This is the year,
This is the
2020.
year.
This
2020
This
is
is the
coming out.
year. Yeah.
February,
Yeah, maybe.
January 1st.
It's hard.
December.
Yeah. It's hard work, so it takes a long time.
Yeah,
Lots
you
of
have a lot of
editing.
experience.
Yeah, lots of editing. I had an awesome co-author, Tori Davis, and we worked together. We actually used GitLab in the beginning, so we're using basically like a repo with our writing and going.
Which
back
I
and
think
forth.
is pretty cool.
Yeah, it was
Yeah.
it was so much easier. And then when we get to the end where we had to work with the publisher, we had to use their.
But,
That
you,
was rough.
but you're using TypeScript to write your book.
Right? Yeah.
Ideally.
So
That'd be great.
what do you do though to relax? Honestly, like when you get away from the screen, what?
It takes naps, obviously.
Yeah, I mean, do you have a hobby outside of like
I mean, the short answer is not really, but sort of. So it is spend time with my dogs and just do the normal stuff that you do. Take
Sure.
them to the dog park. I do like to watch esports though. So like that's something
okay.
that in between like working on projects, I'll go down, I'll have it up on the TV in the living room, and so I'll watch like the League of Legends finals or something like that, or Hearthstone. And I don't really play video games too much, but besides that and like watching some anime, like very
here we
geeky sort
go.
of-
Favorite
Oh,
anime.
Oh, God.
Oh,
Can of Worms has been open.
right now it's My Hero Academia.
Oh, really?
I
See, I haven't got it. I haven't tried it yet.
Oh, it's fantastic.
Is it okay?
Try it.
Well, I mean, you have to try it to see if you like it.
Okay.
I've just gotten off of Violet Evergarden, which I love.
Okay, that's on Netflix, right?
That's on Netflix.
I haven't had a chance.
It is beautiful. It's like all these like sweet love stories.
I'm just
It's
like
really
gibberish.
Yeah, this is like my 17-year-old son trying to tell me about his shows that he watches. Like, mom.
What else?
In terms of anime, I mean, that's the main one I'm watching right now. So it's like I only watch like 30 minutes, but I've watched hundreds of anime series. It's been something I've been doing since a child, and it's sort of funny. I've been dating my girlfriend for about 10 years now, which I could probably do a talk on that because people seem very fascinated by that you're still dating at 10 years and not married.
People love to give you
Yeah.
advice.
Yeah.
Do what you want, man.
Exactly.
But I remember when we first started dating, it was sort of like, I'm going to sort of keep this a little bit hidden. And then eventually she started watching it with me. And it's been a
Nice.
good
Ah,
experience.
nice. Darling in the Franxx. Best ending ever or no?
I haven't seen Darling in the Franxx.
Wow. it's
lit.
perfect.
I saw the look of disappointment
lit
on
Frederick
Frederick's face.
I think just a
I
little.
think we like different anime genres because like the first thing you were like very emotional. So I'm one of those like I like the over the top action.
Okay.
sort of
Oh, I do too.
dramatic.
Don't get me wrong. Yeah,
I'm not
I did get you wrong a little bit.
yeah, as
He
you
doesn't
should.
want all those feelings.
Yeah,
I'm not-
I more like the ones where everybody's crying and dying.
Okay.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's
My
my
son-
favorite anime.
My son the same.
Yeah.
Like he likes these super emotional ones. Like he's like, oh, it was so sad. I was like, okay.
They make me feel uncomfortable. I'm not ready to deal with those feelings. I'm more of
I don't
that.
like emotions.
Yeah, I'm more of that depressed generation where you just sort of swallow your feelings and die early.
Yeah.
That's more so.
I like that. Yeah, you're a little bit.
Swallow your
Yeah.
feelings and die your way.
Yeah.
Yes.
Last thing I
Finish your
can,
book first.
last thing, let me ask you: if you couldn't be in front of a computer ever again, what would you do professionally?
That's something I've thought quite a bit about, and I'm
I
very
bet you
practical that guy
Uh-huh.
in that fashion. And I would do something very practical. I'd probably be an electrician, something that because
Yeah.
traditional schooling is not for me, as I've learned that twice now. And so I would say, okay, what is something that is going to have a good salary? This is how I ended up in development. I said I want something that has a good salary, good job growth, and lots of jobs. And that's really what I define as a good job. And that was what I ended up deciding on.
Nice, I like it.
Yeah,
No, that's pretty
it's
good.
practical.
Oh,
I like
One
it.
Punch Man, we could agree on that.
Yes.
Okay.
Season 1 much better than season
So
2.
Agreed.
ridiculous.
Yeah.
That show is so ridiculous, though. I mean, yeah.
It's Sarah's favorite.
Yeah, yeah, totally.
The premise is there are these people fighting, and there's this one guy who does, was it 100 push-ups, 100 sit-ups
He-
every day,
Yeah,
and he's like ridiculously powerful and can like one
One
punch
Okay.
destroy someone, which is so
or anything.
or anything.
This
It's
Yeah.
just
no,
so weird.
I'm good. I don't think I need to see that.
Excellent. So, where can people find out more about you? Where should they go?
Yeah, I mean, you can always just Google Dylan Israel, take you to my channel. You can go youtube.com/CodeTutorials360, self-taught or not for the podcast,
Right.
or my website, dylanisrael.com, and other things will show up.
So very
Excellent.
easy.
Yeah.
Lots of stuff.
Yeah, thank you for doing this with us and being a speaker here, and we appreciate talking to you.
Yeah, and you're up at 1 o'clock, right? 1:20.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and we'll see how it goes. Maybe they'll invite me back next year for better or worse.
Hopefully the power doesn't go out.
Yeah, it'll be an experience.
Sorry. Stop saying stuff like
So
that.
bad.
So horrible. Dylan, thank you so much. Really appreciate it.
Yeah.
Thanks everybody for watching. We got a lot coming up more. Take care.
Bye.